have you gotten out of this? How much value have you gotten out of this? Because there is so much opportunity in this room, which brings me to the reason why I wanted to get these speakers who are speaking here today to get into their room and tell you what they're doing. They're good friends of mine. Jay Palmisano and Mike Green. I had the opportunity to be in their organization about a year and a half ago. And when I say that these guys are the real deal, they are the real deal. At that time, they had a machine where they were buying deals from probate, buying deals from wholesale, buying deals from REOs, buying deals. They were just doing it all, auctioning and so on. So one of the things that Kenneth and I like to do is to bring what we call the thought leaders in our industry up in front of this room so you guys can grill them, and find out exactly what they're doing and how what they're doing can benefit you and your business. Is that something that you think would be valuable? Yes. I can't hear you. Is that something you think would be valuable? Yes. So with that being said, I want everyone to stand up and welcome Jay Palmisano and Mike. Both sides of the room. Kenneth, we're going to take this side, I'm going to take that side. These guys are going to first tell you guys what their business model is, what they're doing, and so on, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask them questions and really dig deep into the actual process. So, Jay, Mike, the floor is yours.
So Mike and I met. Mike and I started investing probably around 2000 individually. He was doing rehabs, I was building houses. We made every mistake probably possible back then. We were looking for a class to take. We took a class. We got involved with an investment education group. I'm not going to go any further than that to say that, but in that group, the greatest thing that ever happened was we met each other. And Mike was rehabbing, I was auctioning at the time. I taught him a little bit about the auction business. And we started going out and started rehabbing. I think our first year we did 9 deals. And this past year we did probably 45 deals. So, and that's the rehab side. And then we wholesale a little bit. We have a group of partners that we wholesale to. And then we have an auction company, which is a great tool to wholesale. And we probably did about 75 to 100 deals in that business. So yeah, we built a nice little company, and we started from ground zero, like a lot of you folks in the room are starting today. Go ahead, Mike, I'll let you jump in.
Yeah, pretty much sums it up. We spend all of our days just dreaming about how we can find more deals, how we can do more rehab. And that's what was predominantly. One thing he didn't mention to you is about 85% of our income comes from rehabs. And then the other things we do are just a kind of subsidiary of the fact that we have just tremendous amounts of leads coming in, and what do we do with them when they don't fit for the rehab? And that's where the wholesaler comes in. Because some wholesaling stuff would be for rent, people want to hold, and that's not going to be something we can rehab. And then there's some deals that are a little bit far away in DC, and maybe we're just a little busy and we don't feel like driving to DC, and we'll wholesale those. And that market is phenomenal, by the way. It's one of the best markets in the country. And I imagine one of the hardest markets to find a really good deal. People are fighting to So that's all we do every day. His part of the company is really just marketing, generating stuff. We do a lot of that together. Then we'll also spend a lot of time. My part's kind of, once he finds the deals, is evaluating them, make sure they make sense, and then get them back where we get some income back. Because that's the part that really makes a great show. Being able to churn out a rehab in, say, 5 or 6 weeks versus taking 4 months and hiring the wrong guys and all that is the difference in being profitable and not profitable. It means that it's a full-time commitment. You don't sleep until you've done the things necessary to make sure your rehab's going to make money. You don't go in and do a million other things. So that's a little bit about us.
And the other thing is, one thing that we've been very successful at in the last 6 or 7 or 8 years together is joint venturing with people like you that have, and we want to talk to you, by the way.
I want you to talk about it.
We do. We've joint ventured with a lot of people where they bring us a deal and we put up the money and we do the rehab and we share the profits with them. So it's about this business you'll find is that the term, and because he's skinny now, I have to say this with my tongue in cheek, but pigs get rich and the hog gets slaughtered. And if you're a hog and you're out there just trying to take every penny and you're not trying to help people and share with people, you won't be here long. People will know about you and you will be out of the business. And there are people out there that have so much potential that will not allow other people to get involved and make money. You know, Mike and I paid wholesalers 15, 20 grand, 30 grand for a deal. It doesn't matter to us. If the numbers work for us, we could care less what you make. You can make $1 million. If we make our percentage, we don't care. So it's really a matter of networking, the thing you're doing in this group, and Charles is right, we're personal friends, and integrity in this group, in this industry, is sometimes a little hard to find. And if you find integrity and you find smart people, surround yourself with them. And Charles and I have known each other for a long time, done a lot of things together, and have just a great relationship, and that reason is because of that, because of the integrity and the honesty and the ability to work together and make money.
Just 2 points I want to jump in on him is we did 45 rehabs, me and him, and then we had a lot of other joint venture partners stuff on top of that, about another 15, that were just people run the money or they run the rehab or whatever version. I mean, anything that makes sense, we're into it. I mean, we want to, not have a limiting belief that we can only do X to make money. We want to try some different things, and then if that doesn't work, we want to come back and see if there's a way we can change a few things to make it work. Because I think you have to get extra creative right now. I mean, deals are tougher to find right now than ever. And, when he tells you we've done 45, we did 50-some the year before, so we're down this year. And we spent more on marketing this year than we ever have. Our marketing's up and our deals are down because it's tough. The market's getting a little bit better, and what we do gets a little tougher. However, what we're finding is that it might get a little tougher to find a deal, but I think the profits are a little higher. So you might do a little less, but there's a little more room on the back end to get a few more bucks out of it. And for a lot of things, when the market's good, that's great. I mean, there's just different opportunity when the market gets better than there was when everything was being sold at a discount and there wasn't enough people to buy it. People couldn't find the money to take advantage of it. So now we just have to look at what's the new opportunity right now. It's still rehabbing. It always will be. It's something people have done for years. And I mean, literally from before I was born, people were doing it. They're still doing it today. Same philosophy. Second thing you're talking about, coming from contribution, and really like when guys make 20, 30 grand on a wholesale deal for us, I mean, we have to sometimes check ourselves because he's making a lot of money. We've actually tried to adopt the attitude like, let's be happy for him because you know what, man, that guy's going to find us more deals. So and this was us, say, 7 years ago, we're a little bit like, man, that's a lot of money he's making. Now we're really looking at it like, we want to high-five the guy. I mean, we're truly excited for him because I think that's life-changing money for a wholesaler when you make 25, 30 grand. If you've done a great enough job to buy a deal at a price where you can mark it up that much, man, we're high-fiving because it really doesn't matter. We run our numbers, and whatever the number comes up to be, if you got it for 10 and our number's 120, you're going to make $110,000. I mean, it's just that simple. I don't really care otherwise. We'll never get into your pockets. And this isn't a thing for us, but this is more about a mindset necessary to be productive in this industry. Is you can't worry about what your wholesaler's making, and for you wholesale guys, whatever the house is worth is what it's worth. Whether you're making $1,000 or you're making 20, don't limit yourself. Me and Jay have sold probably hundreds of wholesale deals, and there was a time when, and this is probably more my limiting belief than his, where I thought you couldn't make more 5 or 10 grand. I just thought that was kind of like the ceiling. I didn't feel comfortable within myself that I would be able to get more, no matter how good of a deal I got. So the reality was of it now, I kind of put it on the market a little bit, and we find out what it's worth based on what someone's willing to pay. And that's truly what a house is worth, whatever someone's willing to pay. So I've got some deals we've done recently. We've made $250 on them. It was just kind of, hey, thank you for taking it. I keep my word and buy it. And we've had some deals we've made 45, 50 grand on. So obviously they're much more rare. And the 250s are a little bit rare too, hopefully, because that means we didn't do something too well. So we learn from those. They're learning experiences. It's free school.
Now, guys, give the room a sense of your organization. Who do you have in your team? How is your system set up?
Okay, thank you. And there's not one other than Lemon I want to throw out there before we open up the questions for you guys. We have a full-time bookkeeper in our company. We have a receptionist up front. Mike has a personal assistant. He won't let me hire one yet. So. And then we have 2 people in the company that run leads for us full-time that we generate most of the leads they generate. We're trying to get them to that 50-50 mark, but we generate most of them right now. And Mike and I, and then we have a full-time person that just scans the internet and works with investors to bring us investment deals, REOs, HUDs, anything out there that we can put offers on. I'll let Mike talk about how many offers a week, but it's a lot. He'll tell you that in a minute. And then he can describe the field services for you too.
Yeah, that's a lot of the internal office. The external would be like all the relationships with realtors that we've just worked with for long periods of time. I mean, a lot of realtors find a lot of value in the fact that if we buy a deal today and they find one tomorrow, we can buy it also. I mean, we've had weeks where we bought 9 deals in a week and it didn't stop us one bit. I mean, we're like, hey, okay, that's a great week. Let's get pumped up how we're going to try to do the same thing next week. Because that's the mindset necessary to see and really kind of move forward in this tough market. So we've got tremendous amounts of, we've got 2 or 3 really core people that we work with that just full time for us. I mean, they find deals for us all the time, and we do whatever we can to try to work it out, whether it's taking that deal that doesn't fit for us and selling it to one of you guys, just, you know, like I said, the $250 change hands, but it's really doing something for our person to keep our relationship, keep them making a commission. And yeah, we'll do a lot of that, and sometimes that works out really well. And then contractor-wise, we've got, I mean, it's hard to even explain how many contractors we have. I mean, we got a lot.
When you say that you made like 4 or 5 deals a week, did you talk about the structure of some of those deals?
Yeah, a lot of them are people, you know, once you start doing this, you keep networking like you're doing, you're going to get people just call you. Just to give you one example, yesterday, it's been a dry month. We've not had a lot of deals in the last month. I'm sure everybody's experiencing similar stuff. So, I mean, for the amount of stuff we put into it, I mean, we're talking about like 15 grand a month in marketing and like 3 people in office, plus like 3 or 4 more people outside our office that their life revolves around finding trusted home buyers deals. And that's a lot of man hours. We've actually calculated it's about 300 man hours a week that goes into finding deals for us. And there will go sometimes 3 weeks with no deal. So that's a little frustrating, but that's, you know, usually what happens after that is we have a week where we buy 4 or 5 in 1 week. So the structure for us is really simple. I mean, our main structure is just, look, we buy quick, we settle, and, you know, we've already set up like hard money relationships. You know, and that's usually hard money is how we started. When we did our first deal, we kind of just used hard money. We would use we use just a purchase, and then we put a little of our money up. Or if you get a good enough deal, usually it falls in like 60 to 65% LTV, meaning that's 65, your total investment is 65% of what your bank or what the after repower value is. Then you'll find that most hard money guys will lend to you. They're not going to have a problem with that. It really is relationship based though. So I will tell you that even as good as I was at this in the beginning, you know, when I was just cranking these out and they were going flawlessly, I still had a lot of hard money guys that weren't interested. I mean, they just were weird about it. I mean, some of the criteria didn't make sense. You'll find that, you know, they have money. It doesn't mean they're real estate experts. So sometimes relationship building with them is really important and finding ways that they feel comfortable with you. I mean, guys, now we've done so much. We've done 250 deals in the last 6 years. So these guys, it's a text now, hey, I got a deal. And it's like, whatever. Okay, send it over. It's not really much more to it than that. But I can tell you, when we started the relationship, my job was I was out meeting with these guys every day. And I mean, I had things as crazy as I won't lend on a Cape Cod. I mean, I don't really know what that means. I probably rehabbed 70 or 80 Cape Cods, made tremendous money on them. They're actually a pretty good layout. They sell really well. So, I mean, this one person says, I don't lend on Cape Cods. So we kind of do a lot of Cape Cods. I guess we can't talk then. But, you know, it's all about just getting out there and just, you know, not really relying on one market lender. Having a lunch and meeting with as many as you can, finding out who a lot of guys are using. There's just a tremendous amount of hard money lenders. There's no shortage of them. There's a lot of private money lenders, too, who literally just lend privately to you because they want to do it. They're usually a little easier to deal with, but a little harder to find.
Now, guys, did you hear something that he said? He kind of glazed over a little bit about how much money a month we spend on marketing. $15,000 a month.
I want to know what's the scope of the marketing program? You mentioned you have 2 new people in-house, but tell us a little bit about the rate that you're doing.
We did, and we've done in the past a fair amount of radio, which was pretty expensive. I was out there on a lot of the, conservative talk radio channels. We did quite a bit of that. I think your ROI on that, you really have to have a lot of money to put in to get an ROI on that. We do letter campaigns. We do illegal signs like everybody else does.
He's got a court date next week.
I didn't hear you say that because I'll be in court too. Yeah, I did not say that. We do in some internet. Charles has helped us a lot building some internet marketing and stuff. it's having a lot of stuff going on, and really, you know, you're gonna find that some months some things up, and some months other things are up. We work with probate and things like that, so there's a lot of stuff that goes in and out of our office. We track it, so we can tell you how much we make on each investment each year. We know exactly what we do. It's not real sophisticated, but it's a lot of work, and we get it done. And you know, so that's the scope of it. That's the broad scope. Sometimes we spend $8 grand a month. Sometimes we spend $15 grand a month. Sometimes we get stupid. We've done that too.
Leon.
I had a couple quick questions real quick. One, for your sign campaign, about how many a week are you doing? I just, well, you know, I ran across one of you guys putting them out a couple of years ago. I tried to ask him that same question, but I guess because of the way I was dressed, he thought I might have been an inspector or something. So
No,
he wouldn't
plus
tell
they're
me.
trained not to talk to anyone. Usually a lot of people are not, what are these guys doing, so they can repeat it. And so a lot of times, and also inspectors, so we're just like, act stupid if anyone starts to talk to you.
Yeah,
Because
it is
they wanna
this
call
on
the
Liberty
call
Road.
sign.
Let me comment about that for a minute. Let me just tell you something about the sign thing that we just learned, and it'll help you guys. And we're not doing it yet, so I'm telling you this before we even do it. We talked to a couple people. We do a lot of networking nationally now. We go to different places. We just met with a guy that does 100 rehabs a year, and we're trying to get to 100, so we're picking his brain. And he told us about his sign program, and he looks at the ordinances in each county or city, and he finds the loopholes in it so he can put his signs out. So he does it virtually legally, because it might say you can't put out anything rectangular that's more than 1 foot by 2 foot. So he might put out an oval sign that's 3 foot by, you know, he does all kinds of stuff. But he does these things, and it takes the counties and cities a while to, you know. So we're not all about, listen, we're not about running out there and destroying communities. We don't put them in the neighborhoods, we keep them outside, but it's an inexpensive way, and, you know, I have, like, my political views that are too strong, but I can tell you, I'm a believer that people are just trying to tax us when they're fining us for these signs. It's just another tax to me, because, the realtor's got 500 of them on every street corner, and I don't think they're all getting fined. I put one out on the street corner, and they're trying to put me in court, so I just believe it's a tax. So personally, I just think you gotta be conservative, gotta be careful, but just so you know, my fines are like $8 grand right now, so I don't know where we'll end up, but don't run out and throw up a bunch of signs right now, because if you get into that boat where I am right now, it's a big chunk of money.
And how much per rehab do you try to look for a comfortable profit margin?
That's a great question. I think that's a great question. I think you have to think about that a little bit with how hard the rehab is, what you're going to do, how risky it is, how long it's going to take. I mean, we have a sliding scale now. So, we do big houses. We own we've been in Greensburg right now, we own a 35,000 square foot house. In Washington, D.C., we own a house that we paid $750,000 for the house. So the scope of what we do now is, like, we started out doing we'll buy it for 30 or 40 or 50, and we'll put 30 or 40 or 50 in it, and we'll try to make 30 or 40 out of it. That was our range start now. You know, that house in D.C., we hope to make $700,000 on. The house in Green Spring, we were hoping to make $4 million on. So, it just depends. If you buy something that's $50,000 in a neighborhood where you're going to sell for $170,000, you shouldn't probably dip less than 30 to 40 on your beginning numbers, because if it goes wrong, investors in here that do rehabs know, if it goes wrong, it can go wrong fast. When the people that go out there, in the beginning of my business career, the most houses I bought from rehabbers that couldn't finish the projects because they just in their mind said, I'll buy it for 50, I'll put 50 in it, I'll sell it for 150, I'm going to make 50. No, you got the realtor, you got the settlements, you got the closing costs, you got PG&E, you got insurances. You got to put a model together that has all that in it. So when you buy, one of the things Mike and I did early on is we put a really strong evaluation system together to figure out the ARVs, and we put a really strong evaluation system to figure out what we're going to put in that house. And if you don't know those two numbers, you can't possibly know what to buy it for. Yes, ma'am.
What if you think you know the ARV, such as the deal that I was discussing earlier? But you don't know how much it's going to take to put money in to fix the house up. Like I said, this is a huge property. It's 400 square feet property, but the house is 2,200. There's nothing like it in the area.
Yeah, kind of a question for me. When it comes to like rehab budgets, they're moving targets. So if you talk to 5 contractors, they're going to tell you 5 different things.
Right.
You almost need to know your numbers and then convince them. My job as motivational speaker to my contractors, I've got to sit down with them and break the hours down and say, look, you're spending, just to make it really simple, like installing an interior door. There's guys that have tried to...
Alan Vitsayaso, Alan, whose last name begins with a V, please come to the checkout desk. Thank you.
Somebody getting the kind of vote.
So back to the rehab costs, the really simple way of figuring this out is I've actually spent a lot of time in the last year figuring out how long it takes to do each project, because a lot of guys will just kind of pluck something from the air where they'll decide like an interior door. I've had guys tell me $150 to install an interior door. I personally went last week and did a video that I give to my contractors, and I did it myself in 19 minutes. So when they try to charge me $150, they're effectively telling me they want $400 an hour roughly to do an interior door. And plus, I'm not a contractor, by the way. And then I took my $80 a day guy, and he did it in 35 minutes. So roughly an $80 a day guy can do it in 35 minutes. I mean, we should only be paying about $10 to install an interior door. However, going market rate's about 40 to 50. I'm paying like 25 just because I can sit down and convince them that, look, this is a half-hour job. Even if you've got a $20 an hour guy in there, you're still talking about making good profit. A $20 an hour guy can do 3 in an hour. So that guy's making effectively $75 for the company, being paid 20. There's room for a good contractor to make profit. If he doesn't have his stuff together, however, he'll want $100, or he's used to working with homeowners. So it is really about breaking down how many man hours it's going to take to do things. Once you have a good understanding of that, you can really truly come up with a number, because if you basically go on what contractors tell you, they might tell you anything. The greatest example I can give you this, I'll make it fast. When I had the first big job, me and him made our first $100,000 on. We had a $100,000 profit rehab. It was one where the foundation was caving in. I spent 3 weeks, and I got 30 estimates roughly from different waterproofing foundation guys. My highest estimate was $55K. My lowest was $12,500. So to give you an idea, I found the guy at $12,500 where I was able to break the hours down and say, look, you're going to have 3 guys in there for 4 days. Why more than $12,500? How much you pay the guy today? And he was like, yeah, it makes sense. I can make some money there. You're going to make $4,000. This will rest will go to this. You make $4,000. I'll buy the material, and then it cost me $15,000, $16,000. I negotiated the homeowner based on the highest estimate I got, which was $55,000. So that's why we were able to make so much money, because I wasn't sure it wasn't going to cost $55,000, but after I got the reduction on price, I was able to go out and figure out this isn't that big of a job. I mean, I had to get on YouTube and study and learn. I almost felt like I could do it myself at one point. I learned so much about foundations and waterproofing. I really thought that I might be able to get some laborers in there and start doing it myself. And that's what you have to do if you're going to be a good rehab. You've got to understand what you're doing so you can talk equally with the contractors. So that's something you just start working on today. It won't happen overnight, but every day, whatever project. If you're talking to a painter, go learn a little bit about painting so you can talk intelligently about it. And then talk to him about his hours. So that's really the long-winded answer.
George, one of the things, I want to say one thing before you do so. One of the things I want to say to folks is rehabbing, and I'm not trying to talk people out of it because we make more money at that than anything. So that's a great business. But rehabbing is not an easy business. And so people that want to jump in there, we have a lot of friends, personal friends that we've worked with in the past and thought, we can do that. If they do it, we can do it. They jump into rehab, they've lost $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 rehab. So I'm not trying to talk you out of rehab, but I'm saying it's an investment to learn to be a rehabber, because there's a lot of no money deals out there. There's a lot of ways to get into this business. Auctioning is a great way to get into this business and sell properties and not invest a lot of money. Wholesaling is a great way. Joint venturing is a great way. There's a lot of ways to get into the business, and we have worked with a lot of people that aren't great rehabbers that have made a lot of money rehabbing because we've joint ventured with them. So we have a system now, and again, I'm not trying to bring you to our system. I'm just saying, think about it, because it's the most risky part of this business. And when you dive in, like this gentleman was talking about rentals. Like Mike and I have 11 or 12 now, and I hate them. He loves them. I wouldn't have a rental. I had my Ocean City rental, and the first time I went there before the cleaning lady came in, I threw up and never had another rental in my life until because he's got the personality for it. I want to beat everybody up. He's got the personality, so now we have rentals. But we have a system for rentals now, so we don't just go in and buy a house and say we're going to rent it to somebody for $800 a month, we're going to make this cash flow. We have a system. And it's very hard dipping into some of these out-of-pocket businesses where you got your money in there until you know it. So take the time to know it. and find smart people that have done it and are doing it successfully, and partner up, make less until you know it, and then you know it. Sorry.
Can you guys, either one of you, both of you guys, speak a bit about, before the assistance, for the infancy stage of your business, and kind of how you guys built it up, and maybe you take the phone calls and all those things. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, you want to start about it?
Yeah, I mean, actually, so when we first started, it was me and Jay. We were sending out letters. That's giving you a little hint. That's, I believe, the first thing you should do, period, like letters and signs, especially when they weren't illegal, the signs. They're their absolutely best return on investment and the lowest cost of investment for advertising. And they'll get the phone ring. And that's what me and him did. We did that for 6, 8 months, and me and him just kind of answered the phones. We got about 20 leads a week, roughly, with me and him getting out. We would find someone who would put the signs out. It was always a struggle, and we just took all the phone calls we did. We were only doing one rehab at a time. It's a little bit easier to do that. When you start talking about scaling it up, right now we got 17 going at once. So when you start talking about that kind of monster, you need a full-time bookkeeper. So just as it happens, you'll need it. But right when you start, you can do everything yourself. It's, you want to get, when you're trying to create a true business, though, you'll have an expert in every category. And that's what you want to lean towards. But when it first starts, no one can afford it. So right now, just work on getting your first deal. Chunk it down, get your first deal, and move from there.
Here's a hard truth, and this is a hard truth. I spoke in front of a lot of investment groups, and I worked with a company that I did masterminds, and I spoke in front of a lot of investment groups. So here's the hard truth. The hard truth is you can do this part-time, but you can't do this sometime. That's how simple it is. You have to put a plan together, and you have to seriously work your plan, and you can't see everything. You got to put the blinders on and narrow beam it, and stop buying 45 programs a year thinking one of them's going to make you money, and pick the one that you're going to be good at, and focus on it, and then find other people that are doing what you want to do, that are successful, and partner with them, and get to know them, and learn with them, and do that constantly. When Mike and I started this business together, we had 2 other partners, and they lasted with us for about 11 weeks. I think one of them lasted like 4 weeks, because they would be playing Tetris while we were having meetings about how we're going to build the marketing. We just said, you're not the right person for us. So we literally unloaded 2 very dear people that we love as partners because they weren't focused, and he and I were out every day. We got in there at 8:30 in the morning, and every day we left at 6 o'clock at night. We worked all day trying to figure out deals and how to negotiate better and how to do what we could do to get better, and never, ever, ever thought about anything else. So the people in this industry that I've seen that don't succeed try to do everything. They're joint venturing with somebody. They're subject twos over here. They're wholesaling over here. They want to do a rehab. They got 50 things in their mind. Narrow your beam. You know what you can do right now. Do what you can do and do it really well, and focus on that one thing until you get great at it. And when you get great at it, then you can move.
Actually, something to add to that real quick before we move on. Charles, you had a great thing you said earlier that this is really, truly your marketers. And the reality of what he's saying is absolutely true. There's nothing that anyone in here is doing to make money in real estate that doesn't start with finding deals first, lead generation. And lead generation, whether it's networking, getting on the phone and saying, hey, who has a house to sell? You've got to find deals first. And if you're not finding deals, then that's the one thing that solves all your other ailments. I mean, you've got to find deals first. Focus on nothing else, because your brain can only focus at 100% on usually like one thing. As soon as you got a second thing, you're focusing 50%. You have a third thing, it's 33%. Fourth thing is 25%. So you're never going to compete with me and Jay, or anybody like me and Jay, which there's a lot of other guys like us out there, if you're only 25% into the game. Because you're going to call back that same lead 3 days later, and we're calling back 10 minutes later. We've already got the deal signed by the time you get out there most of the time. You can ask them. That's how it works. We're like, man, I have to be in the neighborhood that day. They're like on the phone right now, and they're like, are you by the house right now? Because I'm kind of going to be in that area in the next hour. Maybe we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm not saying, hey, you want to meet next week? Because I want to get in there, and I want to try to lock this up before I even talk to anyone else. And that's really the secret, is finding deals first. Once you have a deal and you get it in a contract, don't worry about what you do with it after that. There's no shortage of people, if you get a good deal and you put it under contract, that will either partner with you for the rehab, or you can wholesale it to, or just something you can do with it. The key is find a deal, lock it down. That's it. Once you get great at that, then all the opportunities open up.
Do me a favor, talk about briefly the wholesaling of auction properties. That's a strategy I see you guys use a lot.
I'm going to to say one, I'm going to thank you, and I will do that. I want to say one thing before I do that. Here's the thing. If you're starting in this business, I'll give you a couple quick tips. First and foremost, learn how to evaluate a property. You've got to have a system. Okay, you can't, I can go out to 50 row houses in Baltimore, and you can tell me this one's worth 10,000, this one's worth 80,000. What's the difference? Why would somebody pay 80 for this? Why would somebody pay 50 for this? You got to have a system in place. You've got to know how to evaluate. We have a really solid system to evaluate. You were asking about ARVs. We have a very solid system. We understand it intimately, and if you don't understand that, I don't care whether you're rehabbing is really important. Wholesaling, you just might not get the deal done if you contract it for too much. Auctioning is the same way, you just might not get the deal done. But know that. Then the second thing is evaluate if you're rehabbing, how you really come up with that number if it's really real, and what you can sell it for. And then find a great realtor. Find the best realtor you can find, and if this person's really good and they're not the best, find another. Just keep going up the ladder till you find the best realtor, because those things will help if you're rehabbing. If you're wholesaling or you're auctioning, Charles asked me to talk about auctions. One of the things I love about the auction business is, and I'll do this in a nutshell, if I was coming to Mike and Mike has a property he wants to sell for $50,000, and I think, and I look and I do all my research and I think, hey, I can sell it probably comfortably, maybe I can buy it for $40,000. I probably won't get 50 because I'm an investor. If I'm not going to buy it for 50, probably other people aren't. But there's always that person, like Mike and I have a business model financially that works our way. You may be a cash buyer that does 1 a year or 5 a year, and you have all the cash to do it, you do it yourself, and your model might be different. So when I take that property to auction, I book that deal like Charles used the word control and roll. He knows I love those words. But you control that property in some way, shape, or form. You let the person know, hey, I might take this to a public auction. And then you contract with a company like us that does the public auction. If you get us involved in the deal early, we'll help you negotiate it, we'll help you with the numbers, we'll help you with stuff, because we don't want to take bad deals. We sell, there's a lot of auction companies out there that sell 30 to 40% of what they take. We sell 95% of what we take, because we don't take it if we can't sell. I mean, we just sold a waterfront property last weekend up in Crownsville for $365,000. Little tiny rancher that was beat all up and ugly. $365,000 to a rehabber. We made $36,500 commission on that deal. We made 10% of that. So there's lots of money to be made out there. You can control a property like you control it now. Say you've got that property that was worth 40 for 30. You brought it to auction and sold it for 50. You just made 20 grand wholesaling that property. So the thing about an auction is it creates an event where people come and you get a whole different group of people out there. In the auction on the water, we had investors, we had homeowners, because we create a big event, and everybody comes, and the premise of it is that day they're buying that property. They're not looking at 15 properties that day. They're looking at that property that day, and the difference is if I'm standing in the crowd and I say, well, ladies and gentlemen, started bidding today at 40,000, would you bid it at 40, would you buy it at 40, I got 40 over here, thank you very much, would you bid it at 50? Why you're 50,000, you bid it at 50, you buy it up $50,000, thank you very much, over 60. The person that just bid 50 knows this person just bid 60. There ain't no mystery about it. They're not sitting there going, well, do people think this is worth this? They hear 60 and like, wow, that guy just bid 60, maybe I'm a little wrong, maybe I'll bid 70. And I've seen people that have gone from thinking I'm going to buy anything today for 50, spending 90 grand on that property that day, because they get caught up in the excitement of that auction. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens a lot of times. This property sold at $250 and ended up selling for $365.
I just wanted to add a point, just to tell him, to give you guys a great example of, there's a wholesaler that came to one of our auctions about 2 months ago that we sold PG County, and everybody knows PG County, DC market's fantastic. A house that B&J would have bought for 45 sold for 108. So, our numbers are very similar to every other rehabber's number. We're all in the same ballpark. So you get, the ARV on that house was 150 and needed 60 in rehab. So if they paid too much, we know that. That guy seen this and he was like, man, I need to come with you guys. So what he did, the next wholesale deal he got at 52,000, he took the auction with this, sold for 97. So the guy just makes like 45 grand, and he's like, it's not that you guys can't do it on your own, but there is a big bunch of people that just won't buy from an individual guy. They feel like they're being ripped off. They feel like, who's this guy? Is this for real? Is this really a good deal? And then they're going to also negotiate different. The same house that he bought for 50 was on the market as an REO for like 60 and didn't sell. And then when he offered 50, he got it under contract, and then he took and auctioned it with us and sold it for 98. But with a realtor, no one would touch it. And then when you get 20 people sitting there fighting over it, I'm not going to say the guy who bought it didn't get caught up in the buying and hit like 3 others. 3 guys fighting over it. But it just creates a unique opportunity to potentially get another 10 or 15 grand out of your wholesale deals. And in this situation, like he probably would have sold it for 10 grand or 15 grand, and he was able to make 45,000. So 47 was a lot.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up for you guys, so you can start thinking outside of the box. Normally, you do a wholesale deal, you think of wholesaling it to your rehabber. You can wholesale a wholesale deal and take it to auction and create a bidding frenzy. So start thinking out the box. Now, of course, you got to get permission from the actual seller because you got it in the contract. But that's another additional strategy that you can use wholesale.
And that's also where we come in. If you need to get that permission and you're a little nervous about asking for it, like we have me, Jay, 3 salespeople. One guy will come out and just sit with me and explain auction, tell them why it makes sense, and we'll create an environment where everyone makes money, a win-win for even the homeowner if necessary. A lot of times the homeowner just give me my 50,000. That's it. I don't care what you guys do. Just give me my 50 grand. As long as you can deliver that, I'm fine. And that's it.
So, my quick question. I thought of the auction strategy. I called an existing auctioneer, and they sent me the paperwork, and then I read something about what I needed to pay them, you know, for marketing and advertising. Well, I froze in my tracks because right now that's not what I was quite looking for. So can you talk a little bit about, you know, like here you have this example where you made more money. You're auctioning. Do you just decide how much you're going to get from it, or
I'm going to let Jay take over the details, but I'll tell you on that one deal, before we go there, that one deal I got paid no marketing because we already had a buyer's list developed. The only cost of that whole transaction was we had to pay like $150 from our realtor to throw it on theirs, just so we could get the most people out. But in those counties, we've done so many auctions, we've got a 15,000 person buyer's list. So literally send it out. I think we have 37 registered bidders, which is really serious. I mean, to have 37 people that actually sign out. We'll get 20, 30 people to show up. When you have 37 people who are actually in the game of bidding, you're going to have a war there that day usually. So no real cost to the wholesaler. Sometimes there's a small cost, and if not, we work it all out. We're very investor friendly because we are investors. That's the difference. Most auction companies find what we're telling you we just did. They don't think that's ethical. They don't think that's a fair way to make money. It's just because they don't do it. We were grown up on it. We were definitely nurtured on doing that. And we think it's a fantastic way to make money. And we've had our lawyers look at it. There's nothing legal being done. Everything's fair. It's all fair game. We disclose everything. There's nothing we do under the cover. So everyone's happy at the end of the day.
So your question is this. I've had deals where I've sold $700,000, I sold $1 million property through auction. Now my commission on that deal was $100,000. Let's say I got $50,000 away from selling that, and the owner wouldn't budge. What am I going to do? Am I going to walk away from my $50,000 commission, or am I going to give that guy 50 grand and walk away with 50 grand? I mean, I'm stupid, but I'm not that stupid. So the bottom line is that on the investor deals, we'll find a way to make the deal work. If it's a real deal, not to coin your phrase, and we can make it work financially, we can make the money work, we're going to make that money work. We're going to make it work with your client. We'll sit in front of them and help you understand it better. That's why I said partner up, because we might have to do the first 10 together, and then the 11th one, you might just walk in the door with it, and now you're the rep, you're the everything. So you're getting the lots of sides of the transaction. We don't care. We pay a rep to do it anyway, so we want you to make money. You know, just you know, like I said, there's no rule. That's the cool thing about auctions. There's no rule in it that we can't fix to make it work for everybody. As long as we're honest with the client, we have a fiduciary responsibility for that seller. And we're going to be as honest with them as we can be. But we have to, you know, work it out so that everybody's going to, and a lot of times the sellers are the happiest people out there because they get something that they never expected.
Well, the seller really is you, by the way. The guy has it, like you said, you have equitable interest once you have him under contract, so you actually are the seller who will represent, not the actual owner.
Yeah.
And those, just talking about wholesalers, since we're sitting in a room full of a lot of wholesalers.
What's the time frame to execute an auction? From the time I contact you with the property and the time that you're going to do the auction?
It's usually like somewhere between 2.5 to 4 weeks for just an investment, kind of quick property. If you get something that's a little more expensive, and say a restaurant or something needs long-term advertising, it can be 3 to 6 months. It just really depends on what's best for the deal. If you're bringing me a PG County property that's $70,000 property, ARV at 200, something in those ballpark, that's something we do in 2.5 to 3 weeks. We do it really quickly, as fast as we can get it.
It's just a matter of having the time to get the marketing out there.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, if you got,
Usually, you know, as a wholesaler, wholesaler, I tend to have a contract for 30 days.
Right.
Now, how soon should I come to you as soon as I get it? Or, because sometimes, again, I need to have my own strategy
Yeah.
to see how soon I want to.
I think if you have a residential property, I think you should think it'll sell in 3 weeks. From the day you contact me, if you got it under contract, it's probably a 3-week process to sell it, and then 30 days to settle it. So you might want to put an extension in your contract that says, if I sell this in the first 30 days, you're going to give me an additional 30 days to settle it, because anybody's going to do that. I mean, if they got it sold, their goal is to sell it. If you sell in 3 weeks, you're at the top of the list of wholesalers in the area. Nobody's selling in 3 weeks usually. So if you contract it, you got 3 weeks later, it's sold, and then they want to give you 30 days to settle it. And most investors that buy those kind of properties, they want to settle it as fast as they can because they want to get more. And they got cash, they're ready to run. So usually when we settle them, 2 weeks later, we sell them, 2 weeks later they settle, assuming there's no, and also you want to put some caveats in there in case you got to clear some clouds on the title, because you got this thing sold, you want time to clear up their title issues so that you can get the deal done. Well, again,
Time's an issue sometimes. I mean, be upfront. I mean, time can be an issue. If you've got 30 days, you might need to get more. But I look at it like this. Are you going to let you sit down with the homeowner and saying, look, I need another 15, 20 days in order to try to make this work? I mean, there's a lot of room now. I mean, we're talking about the difference between making 10 grand and 40 grand. If you can make 40 grand, there's room to say, hey, if I give you 5 more grand, can I get 45 more days? Or if I give you 10% of everything this sells for over the number we agreed upon, can I have 30 more days? There's a way around it, and your job as wholesalers is to figure out how do you get around to get to the best end game. Because the best end game is going to be wherever you can get the most money for. Everyone talks about how do I do more deals. We've actually, a lot of what we've been thinking about for the next year is how do we actually make more off the deals we're currently doing. Because all you got to do is just add 50% to what you're making on a deal, and it's like doing 50% more deals without all the advertising, without taking as many phone calls. So, doing a bunch of $3,000 deals, all you're going to do is turn them into $10,000 deals. You just tripled your marketing without spending the money. When you talk about a company being profitable, that's the kind of numbers you have to run. That's what makes sense. That's what makes you grow. That gives you the money to start doing things at a higher level and adding the bookkeeper, adding these people. You can't do it until you're profitable. So you start with figuring out how do I get the most money out of every single deal. And it might be auction. Some things might not fit. The nice thing about us, we'll tell you it's not a good fit. Some things are just like good deals for rehabbers. And like you literally just, rehab deals that actually fit for rehabbers are really easy to sell. There's other things that fall in the middle though where we come in, and like all the deals in PG County, I would say the things that fall in the middle because a rehabber will pay you a number, but they're not going to pay the $98,000 to $107 for things that if they were PG County, like Capitol Heights, you know what they sell for. 3-bedroom, 1,000 square foot, they're 160 to 170 grand on the high end, 150 roughly. I mean, they're paying 107 and they need full rehab. I don't know where you're going to get that number from. That's almost homeowner price. I mean, these guys have a different business model. I talked to them and asked them what they were doing. Their plan is that they're going to rehab it and then rent it, and they're okay that they're in for over full price because they believe PG County in the next 10 years is going to double or triple in price. They could be right. I'm not sure. I have no clue. I just don't deal in speculation. But that's what these guys believe, and there's a big group of people that believe that and are buying at those numbers. So instead of fighting them and trying to compete with them, which will never win, let's actually work with them. It's like you can't beat them, join them. And that's how we're going to do it.
Like we had one strategy I remember we talked about on the radio show.
Yeah.
It was called fringe investment. Where you pick a fringe market where everybody isn't at or where they should be. Talk about that. Finding good deals in fringe areas.
Yeah, I mean, really simply, I mean, a lot of what we all invested in is the areas that are kind of, I wouldn't say, let's just call it, you got A-class neighborhoods. If you're familiar with Anne Arundel County, like Severna Park's an A-class neighborhood, Annapolis is an A-class neighborhood. You get to B-class would be more Glen Burnie, the areas that are kind of PG County neighborhoods with B-class and C-class. And then getting into the C-class neighborhoods is where we end up lying a lot of times. C-class are the neighborhoods that sell really well, but aren't so great. They're okay neighborhoods, but they do sell well. When you go into D-class is when a neighborhood you see like Baltimore in the war zone, they're the areas that you can't sell a property no matter what, but they pull good rents, so they're good rental neighborhoods actually, so they're pretty solid rental neighborhoods. I'm talking about like Evanston Village would be a C-class neighborhood actually. I've sold properties in Evanston Village and I've gotten decent money for them on certain streets, not every street. So there's some streets you get $120,000, $30,000 for some rehabs, and they're great rentals. They fall in like the C-class. We get to like North Avenue in the war zones where it looks like Iraq and like a bomb went off. They're in the B-class, stay away from them. You can't even sell those at auction. auction. We just had like 7 the other week that we were literally like, just make us an offer of any number, and we couldn't get people to show up. Like they were just like, we were sold for $100 a piece and no one would buy it. That's how
We sold 3 of them.
we sold 3 and a couple of the decent parts. So there was like 6 we didn't sell. And I mean, they were all absolute auctions, meaning there was no reserve. So if you'd have been there and said, I'll pay $1,000, it was yours. And like literally no one would take them. So D-class neighborhoods are very tricky for if you're a new investor. Just stay from the D-class. The C-class neighborhoods just tend to be the things that are just livable, the kind of beginner homes, starter homes, mixed racially. You know, there's just a lot of different mixture there. It's a good, solid living neighborhood, but they're cheap. They're affordable. It's for the people who can't afford to live in the B-class. And then A-class, obviously, we know. A-class you can't invest in because A-class you will pay too much for it. I mean, no one will like to get a deal. I mean, me and him have done 250 rehabs, and I can tell you, Severna Park, we did our first 2 in Severna Park, and we're in Severna. We're like 10 minutes from Severna Park. We just can't get deals in Severna Park that are really that good. You have to overpay a little bit. We probably overpaid for the ones we did, honestly. We paid a little bit overpaid for them, and it didn't work out all that well. I think we bought one for $250 and put like 80 into it, and we sold it for $405. We're gonna make like 30 grand on like a $400,000 investment. That's not a lot of money to make on that big of an investment. Thinking you could have went to like a Hamilton and spent $70,000 or $50,000 rehab, where you have a 120 investment to make the same 20, 30, 40 grand. So the reality of the better A-class neighborhoods are not really good for investors. It's the C-class. It's really defining, you know, you need to comp, and when you comp, you need to see things are selling. If you can find comps, then you know what, you can do it. If someone else can do it, you can do it. You can't find comps over a reason. Don't ever believe that neighborhood's too good and they don't have comps because it's so great. No one. I hear this constantly. Well, no one's selling in that neighborhood. It's just an old kind of neighborhood. No, it's awful around there. And your neighborhood is still a homeowner street. It's a good street, but it's still a homeowner street. Like in good, bad neighborhoods, you'll see one little homeowner street that looks like you could sell this. It's nice. Everyone's lawn's kept up. No, there's no comps. If there's no comps, an appraiser's not going to ever allow you to sell that house. What that house actually becomes just a really great rental house. A really great house to rent. It's still a good homeowner street, but there's no ability to sell. And it really truly is like a C or D-class neighborhood. And you want to focus on C verging into B-class. And really stay
When you get in some of those lower-end neighborhoods, I'm like Mike, I don't recommend you try to make a career out of that. But when you get to some of those lower-end neighborhoods, it's just a negotiation. Like I've had houses like on Fulton Street, which this part of Fulton was a great little area. It's a nice little niche area. House is really in bad shape, but you go around behind it, and the houses are knocked down. They're like the backs fell off on it somehow. I've told the person, listen, I'll take this on, but it's a 50-50 split of whatever I sell it for. If I sell it for $5 grand, you get $2,500, I get $25. If I get it for 10, you get 5, I get 5. That's just how simple it is. It makes it worth my while to run out there and try to be sold it for $7 grand. We made $3,500. We didn't auction it. We just wholesaled it out there, put signs out on the corners, and probably going to quote that too. Anyway, I spent $8 grand to get that $7,500. I sold the deal now. I sold the deal. I'm happy. I lose money, I'm not. Anyway, but those are the kind of things that you can take them on. You just got to negotiate about it. You can't go in there and have somebody say, look, I want 10 grand for this deal. I want 10 grand for these shoes. But if I pay $50 for them, I can sell them for $50. I can put 50 in my pocket, or I can just walk around with shoes on. I mean, you can't get caught up in what they need. You got to get caught up in what the numbers. The numbers are the deals. That's what separated us from a lot of companies out there. I never got caught up in the passion of why this person's medical bills and mom in the hospital, all this made this house worth 100 grand when it was worth 60. It was just worth 60. Now they can get 60 and take care of some of that stuff, or they can hang on to that house and still have 100 grand. I mean, it was just that simple. I'm the hugger, so I hug everybody. Everybody loves me. I hug them all. I'm hugging them all. I'm telling them, hey, your house worth 60.
One last question.
It's one-on-one. That's a general level question. So I presume most of folks getting into this activity or business, they would be starting out small and part-time. So what's the average learning curve for, actually let's take several levels, a rehabber, wholesaler, an investor, to kind of get a good working knowledge, not just something you learn from the books as easy and quick. Working knowledge before they can go like 100%, to have solo and be quite sufficient. And at which point would their, I would say, hour rate be or a return on investment for an investor or a profit margin for a company?
I can actually speak on that because I actually went from having a company that was making decent money at it. flooring store, and I was making about 125 to 150 grand a year. But what I found out when I decided to make a change from doing that to doing real estate full-time was when I started making more income part-time in real estate than I was full-time at the other. So until you're actually doing deals and making money, don't go full-time. You've got to get some income in. You know, unless you have no choice, you lose your job or there's some other life event. But if you have a really steady job, having that steady job will really allow you to have the freedom to work at it. But what I had to do since I had another full-time job is I had to really go and just, I was in this for 6, 7 months, couldn't close a deal, didn't do the marketing, I was in the school, and I was learning everything, and I just didn't get it until I decided I was going to spend 2 hours a day and just get on the phone and start calling back leads, calling people, networking. And I really stuck with that for like 2 months. And it took me 2 months of doing that 5 days a week, and in 2 months I got my first deal. My first deal I made like $23,000, and that was the start deal. But what happened the months after was more important. That was the beginning of the summer. By the end of the summer, I closed like 14 more deals. And I had then a lot of money. We auctioned some of them, we rehabbed a few, and now all of a sudden my income was looking much better here. In September, October that year, me and Jake partnered up. So, you know, just 4 months, 5 months later, because things started happening. And until they start happening, keep your job, because you want to make sure. And the learning curve is impossible to answer because some people are just smarter than other people about. And it's not really just smarter, so I hate to say that. That's actually a limiting belief. Some people have a natural talent for certain parts of this. You know, and that's just personality types. And what we tend to do, me and him, we believe that there's things he's really talented at, and there's things I'm really talented at. And our jobs as owners to figure out what they are and let him do the things he's great at, and let me do what I'm great at. Because when you do the things you're not great at, it's like swimming against the current. You can do it for periods of time, but you know, the longer you do it, eventually you will wear out, and you will explode, and you won't be able to do it, and you'll give up. So you got to find what you hate doing. And if it's getting on the phone, I can tell you, for me, it was getting on the phone. It was getting on that phone. You see me on the phone now, yes, it's no big deal. I just sit there and I'll pound calls out all day long, contractors, whoever, but it took time. I had to build a skin for it and get used to it. The training.
If you, I'll tell you 2 quick things, and I'll just answer your question too. I would think you give yourself 4 to 6 months to really get started. A little shorter than that, a lot. Just figure out what you really want to do and partner up and team up with those people. People are always looking for people. People are always looking for opportunities to work with other people because it's the business. So if you find a group of people that you like and they're like-minded with what you want to do and they're doing it, and you got to make sure they're doing it and making money, because everybody's going to tell you how they're making all this money and they're just not making money. But grab those people, and if they're good people, stay with them, focus on them. Stay with guys you can count on to train you in the right direction. Tell them what you're looking to do. Don't just go to everything and try to absorb all of it. Focus on what you're trying to do and go to these things to network and meet those kind of people out there. A funny thing is, before you know the business, the first auction deal I did, and I had never done an auction in my life, I'd never booked a deal in my life, I made $57,000. And I had no reason I made so much money is because I was so afraid of guaranteeing the number I was going to guarantee these people that I cut it down to like 70% of what I thought it was, just because I was afraid. And I told them the truth of what they could do, and they said, no, we want to do this, and I booked it for 125, and I sold it for like 178, and I made the buyer's premium, and I made the equity on it. So my nervousness and thinking, I don't really know this, how do I do this, made me $57,000. Now that I'm smarter, I probably would make $15,000.
Never do that same deal again, because we now know what it really would sell for. I mean, that really is how you make money, so don't be afraid of the learning curve. It's called the dummy curve. You actually sometimes make more money when you don't know what you're doing, just as long as you get in and do it. That's the secret. You know, the only thing you have to be aware of is not taking action. And when you learn how to put things under contracts, there's really no recourse to it. You can get out of any contract you want. And you can get out, and you can give them fake money, you give them check funds. I mean, there's a lot of times you give a $1 deposit. I mean, you know, you want to get into this. The thing you don't do is not sign the contract because you need to get 17 people to bless the contract. Because it'll be gone by the time you do that. And you'll be like, damn, I'm sure about that.
And have one good contingency in your contract. I'm 25 little. You don't care if there's lead-based pay. If you say, hey, there's a third-party assignment contract, you don't need anything else. Because if you don't find a third party, you're out of the deal. Why do you care about the lead-based payment or the whole? You don't need all that. And people write these real crazy contracts, and the seller's sitting there going, oh my God, and he's never going to buy this. Put one contingency in there. You only need one. One gets you out.
Do you guys have a telephone number? How do we reach you guys?
Yeah. 443-891-3800. And, know, the best thing to do for me, you're welcome to call me, but text, send a little text and say, hey, this is Sam, and I met you at the investor meeting, can you call me back? I'll call you back quickly. Sometimes I get a lot of phone calls, like you all do, you get a lot of phone calls, and it's hard when I'm in the middle of my day to answer, but if I know your name and you've met me here and you want to talk to me, I'll definitely get back to you. And I have plenty of time to talk to you and help you grow, and I'd be happy to do that.
What's the number again?
443-891-3800. And I'm J-Y, and my last name is spelled Palmisano. It's Palm, like the palm of your hand, I-S-A-N-O.
And Bingo was his name.
I'd actually like to just take a few seconds afterwards. I'd really like to meet some of you guys and get your cards and communicate with you. But my number is 443-858-3317, and I won't be so great about calling you back because I just don't. I mean, but the one way I will is if I get your card and I kind of make contact with you, and there's a way that we can kind of just get on the phone. I know who you are. Because if I don't know the number, I won't call back. I'll be upfront with you. I got too many people trying to sell me things, you know, because we do so much business with the rehab. They're trying to sell me a new insurance, sell me a new, water heater is the greatest. So I'm not as easy to get hold of. I'll be upfront about that. But if I get your card and we communicate, I will. And there's a lot of people in the room that I heard from wholesalers, everyone. There's guys doing rehabs too. I know, like I heard you were doing some rehabs. I actually really want to connect with other rehabbers that are doing this because I think there's a lot of power in us having kind of a mastermind group because we're all gonna compete sometimes. But the big reality of it is I think we grow more figuring out how we blow all the other people out of the water as a small group and really do better at what we're doing. Instead of all of us kind of being very close-lipped about it, and really, I think there's some real great synergy in that. And I really want to try to find some guys. I'm looking for guys that are doing maybe like 10 to 15 plus a year versus guys that are doing the first one, simply because I'm doing so many. So what you do when you're doing more is very different than when you do your first one. My first rehab, to give you a quick, I was in there with the hammer. It took me 3 months. I did most of the work. I didn't have a lot of contractors. I ended up doing a lot of things myself because people didn't show up. I made a good profit because of it. And that's not a bad business model if you've done one. It's all about getting that one done and making a profit so that then you can scale the model up and make it more efficient. What I'm doing now is more hands-off. I don't even see half the rehabs we're doing. And I've got project managers. There's a lot going on. I'm more sitting up here kind of making sure everyone's doing what they're doing and finding ways now that I can get pictures sent to me. And I don't have to go to every house because the other week before we went on a little short vacation for some seminars, I had to go see every house in person. It took me 4 days. It took me 4 days to go to 17 houses, so, and actually be in them for an hour and look at them. So I couldn't do that every week. It would be my full-time job. Just walking through them would be my full-time job. So you got to start thinking of things differently when you do more. Here, guys, if anybody's doing more than that in the room, I'd love to sit down with you. If you're new, there might be some room for us to, bounce some ideas off each other, too.
Okay, everybody, let's give Mike and